The results you crave aren't hiding behind a single grand effort. They're buried in the reps you dismiss, the steps you think don't matter, the mornings you snooze through, and the little disciplines you delay because no one's watching. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. It's not glamorous, it's not exciting, it's boring, repetitive, uncelebrated, but it's the only way forward. We've been sold this idea that success has a dramatic entry, that there will be a defining moment when everything shifts. But here's what no one tells you: the defining moment doesn't announce itself. It shows up wearing the clothes of a normal day. No music, no applause, just another ordinary hour asking you again, will you show up or will you shrink? And most people, they shrink, not because they're weak, but because they keep waiting for the next spark, the next big wave of motivation to carry them. But waves don't build legacy, reps do. You don't become strong by lifting the heaviest weight once. You become strong by lifting manageable weight consistently, by pushing through fatigue, boredom, and self-doubt. Every skipped rep is a decision. Every time you don't show up for yourself, you teach your mind that commitment is optional. And when commitment becomes optional, results become impossible. That's the trap: not failure, not lack of talent, but inconsistency in the boring, brutal repetition of effort. The truth is, the difference between the life you have and the life you want is ridiculously unsexy. It's that early morning when no one texts you keep going. It's the late night when no one claps because you stayed in to study, to build, to grind. It's the daily choice to do what you said you'd do even when the feeling has faded. And let me be honest with you, most people don't fail because they don't have it in them. They fail because they stop doing the small things that lead to the big things. The game doesn't reward intensity, it rewards consistency. It doesn't care how inspired you are today if you disappear tomorrow. You can't hustle inconsistency. You can't trick the process by showing up once in a while. The process only opens its doors to those who keep knocking day after day, rep after rep, long after the mood has left the room. And you know what's wild? Most of the reps you skip feel insignificant in the moment. What's one skipped workout, one missed journaling session, one day off the grind? It feels harmless, but they stack. In the same way, the right reps build you, the skipped ones build your excuses. You start to collect reasons instead of results, and those reasons, they become your rhythm. You get good at justifying your own stagnation. And soon, that one time becomes a lifestyle, but the opposite is also true. Every rep you do, even when it's small, even when it's imperfect, becomes proof that you're not the type to fold. That's what consistency gives you: identity. You stop being someone who's trying to change and become someone who is changed, not because you waited for some massive shift, but because you mastered the boring. You repeated the same unsexy tasks until they became sacred, until they became who you are, and that's the piece most people overlook. It's not just about doing the work. It's about becoming the person who does the work no matter what. When you stop chasing the dramatic and start respecting the daily, something shifts. Your confidence starts to grow not because you achieved something massive, but because you kept a promise to yourself. That's where true power lies. So if you're waiting for a moment to change your life, stop. It's already here. It's in the next rep. The next repetition of effort when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, and when quitting would be so easy. That's the place where your future is forged, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, ordinary, uncomfortable space of staying the course. Show up there again and again and again, because while everyone else is out there chasing sparks, you'll be busy building the fire. Success doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or a standing ovation. It doesn't kick down the door and say, "Here I am." No, success is subtle. It slips into your life quietly, almost unnoticeably, through the habits you repeat, the choices you make when nobody's clapping, and the quiet work you do when the spotlight is off. And that's why most people miss it. Because they're too busy waiting for a grand arrival, they never notice the small steps that actually lead them there. We've been conditioned to believe that success is supposed to feel big, like a rush of adrenaline, a viral moment, a dramatic pivot. But in truth, it rarely does. It feels like routine, like doing the same things day in and day out without immediate reward. It feels like showing up when you'd rather rest, focusing when distractions feel more appealing, staying the course when everything inside you wants novelty. That's what real growth feels like: unremarkable, unglamorous, and often unrewarded in the short term. And yet, that's where the magic lies, because what you repeat, you become. And while you're waiting for the world to recognize your effort, your consistency is quietly molding your character. It's making you sharper, stronger, more dangerous, not in a loud, look at me kind of way, but in a silent, undeniable kind of way. Because when you walk in alignment with your goals long enough, your presence starts to carry a different weight. People feel your growth before they hear about it. That's the power of subtle success. The people who build real momentum don't obsess over applause. They don't need the noise because they trust the process. They understand that the work speaks eventually, but only if you're patient enough to let it. So while others keep looking for shortcuts, distractions, and instant payoff, you need to keep building in the dark. Because what you build in the dark, you'll eventually live in the light. Most people never reach their potential because they quit too early, not because they weren't capable, but because they mistook silence for failure. They thought no recognition meant no progress, but silence is not the absence of growth. It's often the very environment in which it thrives. The seed doesn't sprout the day you plant it. It works in silence, under pressure, in darkness. But give it time, give it consistency, and eventually it breaks through, not because it shouted, but because it stayed. There's this quiet confidence that comes when you've shown up so many times the world can no longer ignore you. Not because you demanded attention, but because your work became undeniable. That kind of success doesn't brag. It doesn't need to. It's written in your results, in your discipline, in the way you carry yourself without needing validation. You don't need to be loud to be legendary. You don't need to broadcast your every move. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stay silent, stay consistent, and let your habits do the heavy lifting. Let your growth be the proof. Let your improvement be the noise. Because when you build something real, something rooted in effort and patience, it speaks for itself. And when it does, it speaks loud enough to echo, even though you never raised your voice. So stop looking for the rush. Stop expecting success to feel like a movie scene. It won't. Most days, it feels like showing up when no one's watching, pushing through when progress feels invisible, and trusting that every small move matters even when it doesn't feel like it. Because that's how it works. You won't see the shift at first, but one day the mirror looks different. One day the results catch up. One day the world asks how you did it, and you'll know the truth: you just kept showing up while they were waiting to be seen. Success isn't loud. It's built quietly, patiently, relentlessly, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. And the ones who understand that they don't just rise, they last. Motivation is unpredictable. It's emotional, fleeting, and moody. One moment it's lifting you up with the fire of ambition, making you feel like you can conquer anything, and the next it's gone, like it was never there. That's the truth we don't talk about enough. Because too many people are trying to build a future on a feeling that doesn't last. They start strong, full of passion and promises, but the moment that emotional high fades, so does their commitment. Why? Because they were depending on motivation when they should have been leaning on discipline. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It doesn't wait for the perfect mood, the perfect weather, or the perfect level of energy. Discipline shows up because it was decided. It's not glamorous, it's not always exciting, but it's powerful, because while motivation is a guest, discipline is the homeowner. Discipline stays when motivation leaves. It keeps pushing when the spark goes out. It doesn't negotiate with comfort or weakness. It just follows through. Every time you show up for yourself when you don't feel like it, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. That's what discipline really is. It's self-respect in motion. It's you saying, I trust myself enough to act, no matter how I feel, because feelings lie, feelings fluctuate. One bad night's sleep, one rude comment, one distraction, and motivation disappears. But decisions anchored in vision, in purpose they hold firm. And let's be honest, if your future depends on you always feeling inspired, then your future is fragile, because there will be days when everything feels heavy. Days when progress seems invisible, days when no one believes in you, not even you, and those are the days discipline saves you, that quiet inner voice that whispers, do it anyway, that part of you that gets up when comfort begs you to sit down. That's what separates those who wish from those who build. There's this myth that successful people are constantly motivated, that they wake up ready to dominate every single day, but that's not true. The truth is, they've just trained themselves to follow through no matter what. They've turned discipline into a habit, and habits don't ask permission. Habits just execute, and that's the difference. Motivation might get you started, but only discipline gets you finished. Look around. The people who are truly making progress aren't necessarily the most talented, the most energetic, or even the most confident. They're just the most consistent. They've learned to stop waiting for the mood to match the mission, because they understand that the body obeys the mind, and the mind obeys the standard you've set. And when that standard is non-negotiable, you stop playing games with your potential. Think about this. If every time you didn't feel like doing something, you did it anyway, how different would your life look? How much stronger would your habits be? How much closer would your goals feel? That's the power of decision-based living. You become reliable, not to others but to yourself. And that reliability becomes your foundation, not because it's loud, but because it's solid. You'll never always feel like it. That's not a weakness, that's reality, but the decision to keep going, that's where your power lies. It's in brushing your teeth when you're tired, showing up to the gym when you're unmotivated, putting in the work when no one's watching. You don't need to feel it to do it. You just need to decide that you're no longer available for excuses. Every great life is built on boring, disciplined days that didn't feel good in the moment, but created results that feel incredible later. And yes, there will be resistance, but the resistance isn't a stop sign, it's a test, to see if you're still living on emotions or if you've stepped into your decisions. So ask yourself, who's in charge here, your mood or your mission? Because one of them has to lead, and if your mission leads, you win, not instantly, not dramatically, but inevitably, because discipline doesn't need attention, it creates outcomes. And when it's all said and done, those outcomes will speak louder than any temporary burst of motivation ever could. Boredom, that quiet, creeping sensation that tells you this again, that voice that whispers, this is getting repetitive, or surely there's something more exciting out there. We're taught to run from it, to believe that boredom is a sign we're stuck, uninspired, or off track. But what if I told you boredom is not the enemy? What if I told you boredom is the barrier, the very threshold you must cross if you ever want to reach mastery? See, most people start something new with energy. There's adrenaline in the beginning. It's fresh, it's exciting, it's full of potential, but that doesn't last. Eventually, every great pursuit becomes repetitive. Every meaningful path starts to feel familiar. And this is where the average person starts to disengage, not because they can't, but because they're addicted to stimulation. They mistake boredom for a problem, when really, it's a rite of passage. You don't get good by doing new things all the time. You get good by doing the same thing over and over until it's no longer something you do, it's something you embody. That's what mastery is. It's when the basics become sacred. When you show up not because it's thrilling, but because it's necessary, because the mission matters more than the mood, and yes, boredom will come. It will test your commitment. It will ask you, are you in this because you love the outcome, or are you just here for the dopamine hit? Because that's the truth, greatness is boring. Excellence lives in repetition. And if you're constantly jumping ship the moment something stops feeling exciting, you're not chasing success, you're chasing novelty. Look at anyone who's mastered their craft: athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, speakers, anyone at the top of their game, and what you'll find isn't a life full of variety. It's a life built on rituals, on small disciplines repeated endlessly, almost obsessively. They embraced boredom because they understood what was on the other side of it. The repetition didn't kill their fire, it sharpened their edge, and that's where most people miss it. They think boredom is a signal to stop. But boredom is actually a test. It's asking, can you keep going even when it's not glamorous? Will you still show up when the applause has faded and no one's watching? Because mastery doesn't care how you feel, it responds to how you move. And the people who move through boredom without breaking, they're the ones who become undeniable. You want to build something meaningful, something lasting, then learn to sit with boredom, learn to outlast it. Stop looking for fireworks and start falling in love with focus, because that's the shift from excitement to commitment. You stop needing every moment to feel magical, and instead you choose to make every moment matter. And here's the beauty: the very repetition that once felt dull begins to sharpen you. You start noticing details you missed before, your movements get cleaner, your thinking gets clearer, your confidence grows not from external praise, but from the quiet knowing that you've done the work. That's when the repetition becomes rewarding. That's when boredom becomes mastery. So don't run from it. Don't flinch when the routine feels dull. That's not your signal to change direction. That's your cue to lean in. To go deeper, not wider, because anyone can get excited. Anyone can start strong. But only a few are willing to stay the course when the path feels flat, when the highs fade and all that's left is the work. That's where separation happens. That's where greatness is born. Boredom isn't trying to break you. It's trying to build you. It's trying to see if you're serious. And when you prove that you are, when you show up again and again, despite how you feel, something powerful begins to happen. You stop just doing the work, and you start becoming the work. So if the repetition feels heavy right now, good. That means you're on the path. That means you're close. Push through it. Own it. Because mastery doesn't live in the excitement of the beginning, it lives in your ability to endure the silence between the results. We often talk about consistency like it's just a strategy, a way to get things done, to hit goals, to check off tasks on a to-do list. But what if I told you it's so much more than that? That consistency doesn't just build your life, it builds you. The version of you that wakes up every day. The version of you that shows up in hard conversations, in pressure, in silence, in discomfort. That version is sculpted, shaped, and revealed through your consistency, because every time you choose to show up, not once, not twice, but again and again, you're telling yourself, this is who I am. You're reinforcing identity. You're proving to your own mind that you're the kind of person who doesn't fold when things get hard. You're not just doing things, you're becoming someone. And the person you become, that's the foundation everything else will stand on. Consistency is your quiet teacher. It doesn't raise its voice. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't even care if you feel inspired. It just waits for you every day, same time, same opportunity, same choice. To show up or to shy away, and the beautiful thing is, the more you choose to show up, the more natural it becomes. Not because it gets easier, but because you get stronger. Your tolerance for discomfort expands. Your patience grows. Your resilience deepens, and all of that adds up to a kind of inner strength that doesn't come from talent or luck. It comes from repetition. It's easy to get caught in the trap of performance. Focusing on what we're achieving, what we're producing, how fast we're moving. But outcomes can't define you, identity does. And when you anchor your identity in consistency, the outcomes take care of themselves. You begin to operate from a place of integrity where your actions are no longer driven by emotion or circumstance, but by alignment. You're not just trying to succeed, you're trying to become someone you can respect in the mirror. And that matters more than any external reward. There's a version of you that's been waiting not for motivation, not for perfect timing, but for you to just get consistent, because that version doesn't emerge through inspiration. It emerges through discipline, through doing the things that matter over and over until they aren't something you try to do, they're just who you are, and that's the transformation no one sees happening. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's real, and once it's done, no one can take it from you. The truth is, consistency exposes your excuses. It reveals your patterns. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself that like comfort more than growth. But it also introduces you to the strongest parts of you, the parts that rise when you stop negotiating with yourself, the parts that don't need to be hyped up to take action, the parts that are committed regardless of how they feel. It's never about being perfect. It's about being present and present again and again, because that presence, that choice to keep showing up even when it feels small, is what forges the kind of character that wins in the long run. Not just in career, not just in fitness, not just in goals, but in life, in how you treat people, in how you lead, in how you recover when you fail, in how you hold yourself when no one's holding you. So don't underestimate the power of doing it again, the small act, the daily choice, the thing no one claps for. That's where your edge is built. That's where your confidence is born, not from one big moment, but from the quiet knowing that you've done it before and you'll do it again. That you don't need to be pushed, begged, or reminded, because this is just who you are now. And if you ever forget that, just look back, not at your highlight reel, but at your habits, because those habits, they hold the truth about who you've become, not the life you built on paper, but the person you built in the dark. The real flex isn't the life that looks good, it's the identity that feels solid. And that, more than anything, is what consistency gives you, the quiet, unshakable strength of becoming someone who doesn't wait to feel ready. They just keep showing up. Your breakthrough isn't lost. It's not hiding. It's not waiting on some perfect timing, some divine alignment, or some magical motivation to suddenly strike. No. Your breakthrough is right there, bored out of its mind, pacing back and forth, wondering how many more times you're going to talk about it before you actually show up for it. Because that's what this really comes down to. Not talent, not timing, not luck, but showing up. Consistently, with your full effort, even when it's not convenient, especially when it's not exciting, because you don't earn breakthroughs by sitting around dreaming about them. You earn them by deciding every single day that you're done playing with your potential and ready to live in it. There's this moment you reach where excuses start to sound embarrassing even to yourself. The same story over and over. I was tired. I wasn't in the mood. I had too much going on. Meanwhile, your future is still sitting there waiting. Your goals are still sitting there collecting dust. And all the while, time is passing. Life is moving, and you're stuck on pause, wondering why nothing's changing. But here's the truth. Nothing changes until you change. Nothing moves until you move. You can't keep showing up half present, half interested, half committed, and expect full results. Your breakthrough isn't going to reward your potential, it's going to reward your consistency, your action, your decision to stop negotiating with weakness and start demanding more from yourself. We live in a world that tells you to manifest and visualize and align your energy, and sure, there's a place for that. But manifestation without movement is just a dream with a deadline. The universe isn't going to hand you what you refuse to work for. If you want it, then act like it. Show up like someone who deserves it. Move like someone who's done waiting on permission and has started building on discipline. Because at some point, you've got to get honest. Are you hungry or are you just talking? Because hunger shows in your habits. It shows in the way you wake up early when you'd rather sleep. It shows in the way you say no to the easy route. It shows in the way you keep pushing, keep climbing, keep building even when no one sees you. Even when it feels like nothing's happening. Because that's the test. That's where most people fall off. They mistake silence for failure when really, silence is just the space before the shift. Breakthrough doesn't knock, it waits. It waits behind every missed rep, every excuse, every I'll do it tomorrow. But it also waits behind your effort, your focus, your follow through. And the moment you stop quitting on yourself is the moment it steps forward. Not because the world changed, but because you did. We've got to stop pretending like we don't know what to do. You know what to do. You've known for a while now. The issue isn't knowing, the issue is doing. And doing consistently, even when it's boring, even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one's clapping, because that's when it counts. That's when you're either telling your future, I'm serious, or telling it, I'm still playing. You don't need a new opportunity. You need a new level of ownership. You need to stop auditioning for a life you already have access to. Stop acting like success is behind some locked door you don't have the key to. You are the key. You just keep setting yourself down every time it gets heavy. So no, your breakthrough isn't waiting on better conditions. It's waiting on a better version of you, the version that doesn't talk about goals but lives them, the version that doesn't beg for clarity but builds it through action. The version that shows up, not just when it's fun or fresh, but when it's hard, when it's dull, when it's lonely, when it's testing every part of who you are. You've flirted with your potential long enough. Now it's time to commit, time to stop saying you're ready and start proving it with your choices. Your next level is not far away. It's right there behind the work you keep avoiding, behind the discipline you've been delaying. Behind the moment you finally stop saying, I'll try, and start saying, I will. So show up, or stop pretending you want it, because at the end of the day, your breakthrough doesn't respond to your feelings, it responds to your fight.